Hello everyone and welcome back to the Asian Athletic, and today we have a video in the aftermath of Indonesia versus Saudi Arabia. Don't let the scoreline deceive you. This match sucked. It wasn't a particularly good game of football whatsoever, and for Indonesia it was heart-wrenching but also enraging, because this match isn't just about the fact that they most likely won't be making it to the World Cup now. It's also a representation of everything that has been going wrong in Indonesian football since January of this year. Now, without further ado, let's just get straight into the match. We can beat around the bush later and talk about Shin Tae-yong and Patrick Kluivert. Let's just get straight into the game. Clock was terrible. There were a lot of really poor players, not inspiring whatsoever, and Clock was a big reason why Indonesia just did not perform well. He got absolutely run ragged this game. The clearance that led to the first goal is laughable. It's absolutely pathetic. What are you doing? Just clear it. Just get your boot through it and get it out. Terrible clearance. You play against the team of Saudi Arabia. You've got some serious forwards. You're going to get punished when you play terribly like that. That is one of the worst plays of football you'll ever see in your life. Sayuri conceding that penalty a couple minutes later was also laughable, equally as laughable. But it reveals something about the team that I'll talk about later when we talk about Patrick Kluivert. I reckon he should have saved that penalty. It's not often that I'll say, oh, keeper needs to save a penalty, keeper needs to save this or that, but he should have saved it. It wasn't a good penalty. I'm not gonna lie, it was a really good height for the keeper, and he actually did get some contact on it, but you've got to be saving it. It was a really poor penalty and an equally poor attempt to try and save it. In fairness to Pays, it was probably his only real mistake of the game. I thought for the rest of the game it was pretty good. I know for the third goal, he sort of like pushed it out, but I don't know what else he was supposed to do with that. It's a really decent save. His defenders got caught lacking. Sayuri, what are you doing, son? What are you doing? You're doing everything but playing the football. You're just looking at the ball. You're not actually doing anything. I think Indonesia tactically were poor, so I don't want to make a single player a scapegoat, but if I had to pick the worst player on that pitch today, it was 100% without a doubt Sayuri, because for that third goal, that's all him. Forget the tactics, forget all that. That's all him. Al Burakan didn't even need to do anything special. You could just walk straight through. Sayuri may as well have not been there. Obviously, Indonesia went into this with problems. I don't really know why Saudi Arabia and Qatar were allowed to host these qualifiers. I don't really understand it. It seems to happen a lot in Asian football. Honestly, my best guess, Saudi Arabia's football infrastructure is some of the best in Asia, and it just makes sense to host an important game there. In fairness, the referee last night, I'd say he did a pretty good job. I mean, Indonesia got 2 penalties and like 10 minutes of added time, but that's not the only issue. They had a few injuries as well. I think the most significant one is Verdonk. He actually played the last time Indonesia and Saudi Arabia played against each other, and Verdonk is a very good player. They were also lacking Nathan Jordi, Emil Audero and Marcelino Ferdinand, so obviously they were at a major disadvantage, but they still had a pretty solid team out. Yeah, sure, they're missing their main goalkeeper. Yeah, sure, they're missing one of their best attackers, and they're missing Verdonk as well, who's just one of their best players in general. However, you still have Idjes, you still got Dix, You've still got Romani, and to be fair, Pez, not my go-to goalkeeper, but he's still pretty good. You've still got Reinders, you've got Hubner, you've got Walsh. This is still a pretty decent team. In terms of the substitutes, I thought Tom Hay and Ollie Romani were good. You could see the impact that Romani had in particular. I thought his work rate was outstanding, especially in added time. But the whole time, Indonesia were just being shredded on the wings. Kluivert set them up with a 4-4-2, but I just don't think it suits them, because it doesn't matter if you play 2 banks of 4 to try go really defensive. It seems like there's a mix of zonal and man marking, so it didn't really make a lot of sense. That's why players like Sayuri were constantly out of position. I really don't know what Kluivert told them. I don't know what the instructions were. They just absolutely destroyed Sayuri. And then on the other hand, James and Butcher on the left hand side, I wasn't particularly impressed by them either. And it just goes to show, when you play with a 4-4-2 and you don't have a proper midfielder who can instantly recycle the ball and turn defense into attack immediately, you just end up passing the ball around the back because you can't make any progress. I suppose it was always going to be hard though to strike the balance between trying to play defensive enough to not lose, like 4-0, and then trying to, score. Because this is a must-win, a draw is a loss here. From the off, you should just go for it. But I understand why he wanted to be a bit more cautious in the first half. I get it. A lot of managers would do that. However, like I said, this is a must-win. And I feel like at half-time, Kluivert should have just taken his tactics and thrown them out the window and just really risked it and put everyone on around the 60th minute. As the match went on, it just was not working. When that third goal went in, Kluivert should have stood up and said, all right, we're just going to do a full reset. We're going to abandon the 4-4-2, move to way more aggressive play style and just go for it. And he just didn't. He didn't take any risks. In those final minutes of added time, I think Indonesia were crying out for a giant striker to just sit in the box, nod these clearances down, nod these long balls down, and just use his strength just to really create space for others. You saw Romani do it, and he did a pretty good job. You also had Zylstra on the bench. He's gigantic for Asian football standards. Use him. I don't care if he's experienced or if he's not that good. He's an absolute beanstalk. So many of Indonesia's desperate crosses in the sort of final minutes of the game could have been utilised so much better if they had a player like him to just linger and muscle the Saudi defenders, create some space just by being there. I really think bringing in someone like Lillipali as well at the end would have helped, because Indonesia just looked like they didn't know what to do with the ball once they got it. So many instances where they finally win back possession, the entirety of the Saudi team would just retreat back into their own box, and the players, they'd pass it back to Dix. There was a point where they won the ball back high up on the pitch. They won it around the halfway line and they passed it back to the goalkeeper. You need a player who's got that creativity, who's willing to try those risky balls, and Lillipali, I think, could have tried to have done that, and he just didn't play. Indonesia just resorted to punting the ball out for goal kicks. Would you believe it that the players who contributed the most in those final minutes were players like Romani and Dix? Your tall, big and strong players. That's why I'm saying bring on somebody like Zylstra. He's in your squad, right? Just give it a go. You're gonna lose anyway. I think Indonesians have every right to be frustrated with Kluivert. I just don't think he took enough risks. Something that really annoys me about international managers is when they just don't take huge risks. You only get so many games. It's not like club management where you've got 38, 50 games in a season, and if it goes wrong in this game, it's like, okay, cool, I'll go for a draw this game, and then next game I'll try something riskier. You don't get that. There's no second chances. This game was it. That was it. This is the most important game possibly in the history of Indonesian football, and you refuse to take a risk and bring on anyone. You didn't even bring on Walsh. I don't care if there's fitness concerns or injury concerns. He's one of your best players. Just bring him on. Why not? I was never convinced what the strategy was for Indonesia when they had the possession itself. Were they meant to play it down the wing to the byline, wait for overlapping fullback, cross it high, cross it low, even cross it in the first place, cut it back, wait for a midfielder's run? I just had no idea. There's no consistent strategy, no consistent tactics. If there was anything that was going on, it was very clear that he lacked the players to do what they're wanting to do. Beckham was shocking. He was not like the other Beckham whatsoever. I think what this game really exposed is the giant chasm between the two managers, Patrick Kluivert and Herve Renard. Two very different managers, not only in terms of their professional past, their CV, all those things, but just in terms of how good are the managers. Massive gap. Herve Renard is a manager that I have a lot of respect for, a lot of time for. I think he's a fantastic manager. Everywhere that he's managed, the players always say he's a fantastic manager. He's a great man manager. Tactically, very pragmatic. He knows when to just throw out the tactics and say, cool, we're just going to go for it. We're just going to risk it. He knows when to do that. The thing is, though, is that I'm not going to come out and say, oh, Saudi Arabia were amazing and they were perfect and they're unbeatable. They weren't even that good. They were just fine. I'd give it a solid 6 out of 10 performance. In fairness, I think Renard did what he could. It's just the players let him down a bit. And you could definitely tell with Cano being sent off, the 2 penalties, etc. But the point is that this Saudi Arabia team was beatable. You could have beat them. And for Kluivert to put out a team with that level of performance, it's just really depressing and really disappointing for Indonesia. For some of you who are watching, you might think, oh, this match is a big deal because Indonesia could have gone to the World Cup for the first time as an independent country. And yeah, you're absolutely right. But also, this match is the culmination of everything the PSSI have been preparing for in the past few years, not months, years. Shin Tae-yong, when he was a manager, he brought an incredibly young squad. It's one of the youngest squads I've ever seen in the history of the Asian Cup in 2023. He managed Indonesia at the Under-23 Asian Cup, where he made it to the quarterfinals, losing only to Qatar under slightly suspicious circumstances, you could argue. Yeah, he managed an under-23 Indonesian team because he wanted to be properly like hands-on with the development here, because the PSSI said to him, look, we're building from the ground up a special project and we want you to be at the head of it because we've seen what you could do at other clubs. We've seen what you did with South Korea. You can turn a team that's not great and make them at the very least interesting to watch. And he did that, and he was hands-on. He put a lot of work into Indonesian football. Indonesia was one of the only countries from Southeast Asia at the AFC third round qualifiers for this World Cup. They brought in new naturalised players and they were good. Even during the qualifiers, Indonesia had the chance of advancing directly to the World Cup. There was like a moment when they were in third place, like they were this far off, just going straight to the World Cup. But with this loss, it feels like all that progress has vanished. And I genuinely think that sacking Shin was a massive contributor to this. What I know about Shin being replaced in January, they wanted a Dutch manager who could communicate better with these naturalised players coming in. On one hand, I fully understand that. However, Shin didn't do anything wrong. Tactically, it's fine. When these players come in, they're going to learn the language. They're going to do an intensive training course if you provide one for them. I wonder if they did that. Shin was literally the perfect man for the job. I mean, that's why they appointed him in the first place. He's literally known for being at major projects where you go from nowhere to the top, like at Songnam, right? That's still fresh in our minds, and that was 13 years ago. The fact that we still think Shin Tae-yong and think, oh yeah, what he did at Songnam, shows how good of a manager he is and how well that reputation has aged, because he is a quality manager. Although he did get sacked a couple hours ago as I was recording this video, so it's incredibly disappointing from Indonesia. They need some results to go a very specific way if they still want to qualify for the World Cup. I don't think the game against Iraq is going to be easier. Iraq are pretty good and they have nothing to lose. They have a better mentality when approaching these games than Patrick Kluivert does, because Iraq will throw the kitchen sink to even draw one of those games. I really don't know what's going to happen after this. Obviously Shin Tae-yong got sacked today, and all the memes have come out about, oh yeah, sack Kluivert and bring Shin Tae-yong in. However, I don't know fully what the best solution would be, but what I do know is that Kluivert really messed things up. So thank you for watching this video. What do you think? Was I a bit too harsh on Kluivert? Did I not give enough credit to Herve Renard and the Saudi Arabian national team? Did I pick on the wrong players? Was I bang on about my ratings and my assessments? You guys let me know down in the comments. The last video about Malaysia got a lot of feedback. One guy commented asking if I was the Singaporean Mackwell, and I've got two things to say in response to that. Firstly, thanks for the comparison to Mackwell. He's a fantastic YouTuber and one of the only major Asian content creators in the football space, so I actually really appreciate that. I think he's great and he was an inspiration for me. Second part, I'm not from Singapore, so yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. If you want to stay updated with Asian football, then make sure you follow our Instagram over at The Asian Athletic. Over there you get updates on Asian football, you get mood boards, you get other cool content. It's all over there. And as always, see you later.